So apparently she brought the ceasefire to the forefront. But I just wanted to just add just an overview. This is our moment, and it's also an opportunity for us to unite. Unite because someone said in this room about how we've been so good at eating and tearing each other down. This is an opportunity. But I just understand in the sprint, what is it going to be like for us as women to really go fully and see what we're made of? It's giving us this opportunity. So I just hope we grab it, and I know we are because we're all here and we're going to. But I really, that's what came to me, was like, I want to unite in a way I've never united before, and we're going to make this happen. Thank you. I get pussy hot, so you know how to do it. Remember the pussy hot questions?
Hi. I just wanted to say that I answered that Carla did not receive any opportunity to speak. She has, however, made plans to become so let's not forget that. I wanted to jump in. I am an ally. I am not a woman of color. But I'm an ally, and one of the things that I've noticed of recent is that the relationship between Jewish people and people of color has changed dramatically in the last couple of years. I am Jewish. I'm still an ally, and would like to continue to be one, but I wanted to also bring up this point about the situation in Israel and Palestine, Hamas, the situation with Hamas. Anyway, I think that I've noticed that, and I hope this isn't too controversial, I've noticed that a lot of Jews are also split down the middle, but people like Lizzie Savetsky spoke out yesterday and said they spoke out in support of Trump, and I'm seeing it more and more. And I think this might be a really good time for us to get back together with our, Black and Jewish relationships and see if we can. I mean, this is the narrative that I'd like to be able to speak. So I think to be authentic, we all have to tell the stories to the people that are in our communities.
Yes, absolutely.
So I think it's really important for me in particular to know the real story behind Kamala's decision. And I think this is where we're going to be able to maybe change some votes. It looks like in general the Jewish people are starting to lean a lot more towards Trump, and that makes me sick. So I think if we can figure out what our story is and see if we can talk about it, I think that would be very valuable.
I appreciate you being here and it's essential for us right now, and it's a really deeply troubling time that we're in because, as you know, the civil rights, there's Asian American, Jewish, Black, all march together to really get that over the American line. And it's essential that we do find where we're unified. I think this is such a, and I'm going to turn to Gina as well. I am multicultural Black woman, every single perceived person. So it breaks my heart to see where we're divided, but I do think I've been in rooms that I've seen her talk about it, that I know she might be able to share a little bit more now that she's in this position. But I think she's open to really hearing. At the bottom of that, I feel like she's always for humanity and justice. And so where that goes will be really interesting. There is, I do want to say, speaking of, there's a East Asian call, there's a Black man call. I think we have to go into our communities and silently to really only, and then come together, because we're the only ones that can speak to each other with a bit of understanding, but then we have to speak all together. There is a white woman live panel, so excited to see that their goal is also to raise money. So I think we have to just keep having these authentic conversations. So I'm going to turn to Angie and speak to it. Thank you for being here today.
Thanks. I just wanted to say I identify as a Black woman, but I am associated with the Jewish faith. I'm Jewish, my mother's Jewish. And I will say I have been telling them, I think that this problem goes far beyond just this emotional, especially for American Jews. I find them to be heightened emotionally about this issue. I want to say that Palestinians are not Hamas, because I will say that, and I think that's part of the argument for me too. Just like all white people are not the Ku Klux Klan, and all, whatever. Yeah, so I think that those are talking points that are important to be held and to know, because there's a lot of Palestinians that also don't want Hamas to be doing what they're doing. They were given very little choice, and they were already in what I will call apartheid states. So I think it's important for us to understand the real history there, and to also talk to our Jewish friends and family and just say, I'm emotional with you, but this is not about voting our emotions. This is about voting multiple issues, and to hold our government accountable to the things that we take issue with, but not to just be an emotional voter.
Sorry. I have one here too. Oh, and then I'll pass it to you. Cool. Okay. All right. So, hi everyone. I'm Carla. I'm an educator and a filmmaker, and I just want to quickly kind of synthesize the things that I have heard. I think our goal is the same, but our why is different. And our why is different because of our lived experience. So based on what I'm hearing, it sounds like the data scientists and the storytellers need to get together and strategize. And I think we also really don't have 105 days, right? Because we're gonna get tired. So we've got 90 days. So we need to make a plan. We've got 10 days to make a 90-day plan. That 90-day plan should include the data, and then what is the story that the data is telling us needs to be told. And how do we tell that story? What do the commercials look like? What does the Democratic National Convention look like right now? How is that story told? And then who are we telling the story to? Based on all that the data is saying, when do we do that and why? Set that plan together, synthesize about it, and then put it in place for the 90 days. That is what we have to do, because we only have a certain amount of time to reach our goal that is shared, but our why is different. And then in the meantime, the other folks can strategize about what are we going to do after we have won the election. But we have 90 days. So we got 10 days to make a plan, 90 days to execute.
That was perfect. I want to just speak to like 16 different things that have been said in the room today. I have served a lieutenant governor, a governor. I was an appointee serving in the Obama administration, and an appointee serving in the Trump administration. When you are all out here, as you said, emotional, policy people and strategists are preparing for the afterwards. And so it's important to say what I want, but the what I want comes from, were you in the struggle when I was working to be lifted up to this position, and then now you're in the transition committee making decisions at department levels to get those policies instituted. It can't be I wrote a text, or I voted, or I sent an email, and that's enough to get you there. The way policy matters, right? Because we talk about this is all policy. Policy gets implemented based on what transition teams do after people are elected. You can't get on that transition team if you are not boots on the ground, deep in, working day after day, making phone calls, doing whatever. The people then who, like I was, are elevated from transition to an actual post in an administration are people who can effectuate the policy that people want to see in their communities. So you can want what you want, but now is not the time to hold someone's feet to the fire. You get entrenched, and then when they're elected, you say, I got you here. This is how I want to see it implemented and carried out. I am Jewish, Jamaican, and Kenyan. I teach at USC in policy, and one of the things I tell my students very often, mostly men in my class, but I turn to the women in my class, we are women and mothers. At the end of the day, we have birthed the world. The way that we carry ourselves is different. We don't want harm to anybody's children. Nobody's. I don't care what side of the equation you're on, no one's children. So whether you're in a Jewish community or a Palestinian community, or you're talking to white people, Hispanic people, whatever your race or space in life is, we are women and we are often mothers. We care because we have children ourselves, and we want to create a world that works for them. That's your story. Like, we don't have to get complicated about this. I will also say, having served a lieutenant governor who believed probably 30% of what her governor believed, she got out there and stood up and was like, and smiled. And when she shifted to become the candidate, it was a really hard turn because people could only see the person that she served. We do ourselves a disservice. We are always second. We are always lifting up some man. How dare we now question who she is and how she is? Say that. I mean, really. In every place where we have been number 2, now we are number 1. And we should be pulling our friends, our sisters, our cousins, our children, our brothers, whoever else in our community, and drag her over the line. And then when she gets over the line, we can beat her up then. But today, we got work to do. And I think that's what thank you for that word. Thank you for that word.
I love that. I love that. I'm sorry. I love that so much, and I appreciate that sentiment more than you even realize. My name's Nia Weeks. I'm from New Orleans, Louisiana. I run a 501c4 and 501c3 that work as sister organizations to get Black women civically engaged. In 2020, we had 150,000 of 700,000 Black women who were eligible to vote actually vote. Right? And so in 2020, we were given a last ditch effort too. You know what I'm saying? They gave us a little bit of money in September and told us to organize 300,000 Black women. And we did. And we did it because we told multi-layered stories. And I appreciate is it Tiffany? The comment that you said about like, we gotta go hard, fast, and in the paint, tell the stories that people want to hear. So we told animated stories to the young people. This is my daughter here too. She's 16. She's gonna vote in 2 years. And so she'll be voting for Kamala in 4 years again. So I'm just gonna say that. But like, you know, it was, we told multi-layered stories because we all don't hear the same stories. And so the sci-fi people, they got to hear their story their way. You know what I'm saying? The people who are dated, they got to hear their story that way. We did a road trip telling the story about Black women civic engagement in the South and interviewed Black women on the bridge at Selma whose mothers were at the foot, of the people who had organized that. And the reality was, I remember one of the interviews, we're standing on the bridge at Selma, it's the sun's going down, she's telling the story about her mama ran across that bridge and hit her boyfriend's house when stuff went down. And she said that the road to freedom, especially for us, is long. And that when they were driving up and down those roads in Montgomery, planning for Selma, knowing what the outcome was for Selma, they weren't thinking about themselves. And they weren't even thinking about their children. They were thinking about their children's children. And the reality is that our democracy is on the line. We have no choice. We can be in our fields, you know what I'm saying? We can talk to our little friends about their fields. I had a friend text me yesterday like, I'm not really about Kamala. I said, well, on January 21st, you're either going to be writing a story about how great it is to still be able to tell the stories that our grandparents told, or are we going to be in a space where we're going to be telling the story about how we have to figure out a way out of here because there's no space for us to live in democracy anymore. We have no choice if you want to continue the fight that our grandmothers and our mothers fought for. You know, this is our time. It is not just our time to be bold and dope as Black women, because it is that too, right? But it's also, the torch has been handed, right? They have asked us, look, we know it's hard to show up. Show up. We know it's hard to convince your people, convince them. Each one of us should commit to having 10 people that we know are not on board and tell them whatever we gotta tell them. Is it the story about how when Obama left office, he left 200 vacancies in our judiciary, which is the most powerful branch of our government, is the judiciary. So all the stuff that happened with Roe and all the stuff that happened with affirmative action that happened through the judiciary, and the Supreme Court has the last say in the law of the land. And so whoever has the say and who sits on that seat has the last say in law of the land for the next 50 years. And when Trump came in, he had 200 vacancies to appoint, and he appointed conservative, young, white men who do not think like you and do not believe that you are totally human. When We the People was written, we weren't people, and they believed that. Right? And so even California is only a couple justices away from being conservative, right? I mean, the reality is that we're looking at 8 years of conservative policy, legislature, and judiciary. That's something that I can't hand her in a good way. I don't lead women to dirty water, and I'm not leading my child to dirty water. And so the reality is we have no choice. You know what I'm saying? We're going to get pumped up. We're going to drink a lot of wine. We're going to toast, have brunches, have parties, look at films, and tell stories. And we are going to vote. We're going to bring at least 10 people to vote with us, and we're going to win. And then we're going to stand at the foot of the White House cheering her on January 20th. And on January 21st, we're going to no, we showed up. We got the Crown Act passed in Louisiana, the first Crown Act passed in the Deep South, because 300 Black women showed up to vote in 2020. Okay, so that's all I have to say.
Wow, I don't even know if I want to say anything now. How many of you came here and you sat in traffic?
Speak up a little bit.
How many of you sat in traffic coming here? Okay, what do you do when you sit in traffic? Like when you're sitting in your car for an hour, what do you do? Make phone calls?
Podcast.
How many of you would be opposed to listening to Kamala Harris's book? So you can hear everything that she has done, everything she plans to do, and then, like myself, I'm on board. Because she did something for me personally, besides the Crown Act, so I don't have to get fired for how I wear my hair. But she did something for me that happened to me a long time ago, and it dealt with maternal mortality and the Omnibus Act. It was something that she did that really elevated Black women to be able to get doulas, or doulas, however you want to pronounce it. Doulas, excuse me. I had my babies a long time ago. And so now it is part of Medicare and, I'm sorry, Medicaid. I'm old too, so I'm using Medicare. So all I'm saying is if you want to know what Kamala Harris is about, take time when you're sitting in traffic and listen to her book. Okay?
So I just want to piggyback off of what this sister said right here, because we have a similar background, having come from when that 501c3 and 4 come together and what you could do with that. I am a single issue voter. I am a Supreme Court and federal judiciary single issue voter. J.D. Vance should scare us more than anything else. And Trump winning is really 12 years. It's a Trump presidency and then 2 cycles of J.D. Vance, who is already out the gate saying, why should we let childless cat ladies, right, run the country, and attacking the fact that Buttigieg and Kamala and someone else don't have biological children, okay? So, my flight to LA told me I can't save anybody if I can't save myself. And so I'm very clear when I talk to my cousins and they're with the foolishness and they want to, be somewhere deep in the weeds. How many more rights do we have to have rolled back? Because even the people that will be appointed have less power because of what was done with the EPA, right? So we've had too much rolled back because of the courts already, that we're starting from a deficit. And I'm okay with telling everybody that asks me whether or not I love her. I don't care if you love her. Love freedom. Love freedom. Because you're about to not have it. So I just want to go back and say, when you're talking back to the campaign from my time working with the League of Conservation Voters in New York, I don't want the narrative to be what it is about Obama and what he didn't do, because we didn't deliver the Congress and the Senate that he needed to do what he wanted to do. And what I personally need, like everybody talks about how Black women are so educated, I need us to get past the 101 and the 102 conversations. I want the 201 and the 202 conversations. I want, if you're in a blue state, every blue state, including New York, right? When I needed to help pass the Bond Act and was running on the C3 side, all the tax deductible C3 money in the world can go towards me hiring canvassers in the districts that I've done the data work on, because that's where data shows up to say, this is how you get out to vote. I need a conversation where they've rolled back Voting Rights Act about, are you allowed to do the water? Are you allowed to do this and that? Like, I want the campaign to offer that more detailed information to us so that we can activate. Because if I'm in a blue state like California and New York, I have congressional districts that are on the fence that I have the opportunity to bring, while I'm voting for her and I'm going Democratic for her, I need that congressional seat to go Democratic as well, for her to be able to do anything. And then don't just tell me go to Pennsylvania, Ohio, Michigan, Nevada. Equip me. What district? Give me my canvas list. If this is going to come down to in districts turning out the extra 300 and enough 300 in enough tactical districts. And my understanding from the work I did in New York was that the Democrats, really a lot of our infrastructure got decimated. And so get on the phone and do the 201 and the 301 conversation with, as much of the 44,000 of us are going to get on the call. What districts in our blue states, don't send all of us elsewhere. In our blue states, send us to the congressional districts we need to make sure have a chance of staying blue so that she can be effective. Because that's all, that was a knock on David Dinkins. That was a knock, it's a knock. We don't give them what they need to be successful, so they're not as successful, so then we're failures at the politics of it. And then, how are you deploying us? Because she hasn't had her advanced teams out there. How are you deploying us in the swing states to get the incremental people in the right places to turn this around? I want the map lit up. If we can light the map up on election night, light the map up, tell me what her path is that we're helping you get to. Because that's what I feel like we didn't have with Hillary. And we, don't pat me on the back and say, as Black women, we're educated, and not talk to me like I'm educated enough to really understand what the system can do. I want to give super PAC money, but what C3s am I giving my tax deductible money to? If we're corporate, am I giving my corporate match to in addition to my money, because it can go to a C3, so that at the same time that the C4 side is saying who to vote for, the C3 side is making sure that we canvass to say go vote, because the C3 side can do that. Like I want the tactical, because that's what'll help me turn out my other friends that are like, is it possible? Well, no, like, sis, we were in that poli-sci class together. This is the tactic, the deep tactical work. Talk to us like who we are. And that's what I would ask for from the campaign coming back.
You'll be asking that directly to the campaign, because clearly you need to be talking to them.
Right. Absolutely.
So that is done.
Right.
Before I say anything, thank you for everything you said, and to everyone in this room, thank you not only for being here, but thank you for showing up so beautifully and authentically. I think what my sisters on this panel envisioned, it's that and so much more. The thing that I wanted to ask is, I'm an ops person, much like you. I'm a tactics person. And if we imagine that every single person in this room has a platform, when we walk out, we can go out and influence. Right, so I have colleagues, which you probably already know, Kiana, that want to put together a VC PAC because all the VCs want to pull together their capital. If each of us in this room have a platform, give us our clear, what do we do next, right? For someone who knows nothing about politics, but has an absolute conviction that if I don't get involved, not only is my life on the line, but it's like my great-great-granddaughter's life is on the line. So I don't know a thing about politics, but I just need to know. I know I have a platform. I know I have a lot of influence where I play. I just don't know what to do, right? And so to bring it to that sort of tactical guidance, and if all of us have platforms and can go reach tens and thousands and hundreds of thousands of people, what do we do? How do we, what do we do? How do we walk away from here and say, okay, I got this? Right, this is what I've gotten. Am I putting on brunches? I put on brunches. Tell me, what am I doing? And then I'll do it, right? And so that's where I'd love to kind of shift it, so all of us in this room can feel like we walked away.
I was going to move us to ask about that as well, the takeaways. Now we're all fired up and ready to go, And I also was just gonna notice, and then we can speak to takeaways specifically, but even in here, I'm just thinking about the stories that have resonated, even, as we were talking about earlier, Bridget, the feelings over facts, and, some of us have a lot of political experience in here, and some of us have none. And I don't have specific political experience, but just noticing what's resonated. I just want to speak to just the storytelling element of it and how it can be simple and some of the things that we're going back out into our communities with. We want to get our specific takeaways, which we're going to speak to, but I'm just noticing those things around, the difference between freedom and the lack of. Kamala being representing the America that we know we are, and how America has been co-opted. I'm just thinking about some of the, how like when you're, as a storyteller, when you're doing those log lines, when you're doing those, right? You got 2 minutes to capture me. So just for all of us, because things may have resonated with me and what may have resonated with you. So I'm just inviting us to think about what are some things that you've heard in here today that it's like, ooh, that, and like, for whoever may have had a chance to see some of the first like speeches, campaign speeches that she's starting to give, where she talks about, right? I prosecuted for-profit fake colleges, like that, the difference between here's what she is, here's what he is, right? So those contrasts, but there've been so many beautiful things that have been said today that are really popping for me. It's like, I can go out to my 10 people, my 100 people, my platform, and say this. So I'm just inviting us to think about what are the stories that are resonating, but then we're gonna get to takeaways.
I have a point.
No, you go. No.
I don't like to lead from a place of fear, but I feel like there is something that we have not mentioned, which I'm feeling is the fear that, I don't even know how to phrase it in the right way, but we've all noticed how there was this big push for, diversity, equity, and inclusion, right? And then we've probably all noticed how there is this giant like pulling back and retreating from that and actually attacking that. Am I right? Have people noticed that? Okay. So what I'm concerned about is it's almost like the they, and I don't like speaking in they and them because it's all us, are afraid that we are taking over. And I think that's something that we have to speak to, because back to your point, the point I made as well, is that women, birth the world. So there isn't really a they and an us, and we're not people of retribution. We're not the ones who go shoot up white churches, for example, right? Have we ever done that? I don't know of it. Never heard of it. You know what I mean? But I think that a friend, made a comment and said people, some people in this country are so afraid of how the color of this country is changing and not being white, or what they consider white, and they don't want that, so they want to push back against it. So I think there's like a primal fear that some people have about a woman of color being in the highest position of the land. And what I want people to be able to speak to is, and if she is, she's still here for you, regardless. And maybe they can't hear, but we have to bring it up and say it, because I think if we don't just like go right into like, what do you really, your vote is, are you voting for progress or are you voting from fear? So I just wanted to just lift that up for a moment and say, like, let's also get right with ourselves with that, because again, back to the crabs in the barrel nonsense that I'm sure we have all experienced at some point about something. We can't have it. We can't have any of that. And we have to be bigger than that.
Thank you for sharing that, Simbi. And I want to, I don't know, I feel real compelled to shift the narrative. I can't take care of your fear. I can only share my inspiration. And in this moment, at this time, you should work on that. And you should think about your Black teachers in elementary school who also helped you learn to read and write, and imagine that it doesn't matter what someone looks like. Look, that I think the narrative that we also, and I think it's important to hear that in the one-on-one conversation is important, to talk down to someone or make them feel stupid for a question. I think it's just like, okay, let's have this conversation. I'm gonna ask some stupid questions, but I want to understand, and I may not say it right. I think this is a time to come and really be open to saying, I don't know everything. I'm gonna ask something wrong, but if we don't ask it, we're gonna think it and make action on that without any information. I think sometimes people, we know 501c3, 501c4, one is, can take contributions, can do political, one can be a write-off. There's a lot of things you can do. So just research. If you have a question, go, oh, I don't know what that means, but it's a really important thing that Sis was saying about Angie's list versus, is it Angie's? No, Emily's list versus Angie's list is another thing. If you need somebody to help you with your shoes, I don't know. Emily's list help women get in office. Okay, so, but understanding that, I think we can also walk in with a little bit of curiosity. This is an exciting time. Many of us, it's the first time getting this involved. Get involved, don't know, and learn. And somebody who knows, there's policy people here, data people who've been in. Let's excitedly share our information. I say that to say there is going to be a narrative we face of, well, they in the middle of the country are not going to elect a Black, Southeast Asian woman. That's old. That's old. We saw the moment there. She is not a viable candidate. She has already broken records in sort of her hours. And so let's just grab that narrative and say, oh, that's interesting. No, yes, it is done. And this is, what if we do? So I think we all have to re-speak that narrative and move forward with the idea that this is an incredible time. There is a pivot. It's going to be difficult. She's going to face a lot we will face it. I think some of us may be we may have jobs that we can't speak freely. There is a personal, you can always say things from your personal perspective and not involve, but so we want to be mindful that people are in positions that they can't all speak, so let's be a voice for some of them. But the idea of fear, yes, things are scary, but they're not going to stop us. We're going to have to go low energy, as you said. So I want Cookie. Cookie has been involved in so many, but I want Cookie to have a moment to share as well, if you'd like to.
Sure. Can everyone hear me? And I have like 3 minutes because my car is going to be moved. A couple really practical points. Everybody was talking about the Hillary campaign. We literally lost by 79,000 votes in 3 states. 79,000 votes in 3 states. So a lot of states have voter suppression laws. I would suggest you go, if you want a 50c3 to support, it's called Vote Riders, VOTERIDERS. It tells you exactly what are the voter IDs for every single state in both Spanish and English. And if you're interested in volunteering to help them, train Get Out the Vote people, because it's great to get out the vote, but when people show up and don't have the right voter ID, they're going to be turned away. So voter suppression is real, folks. So Vote Riders is a great organization to support. The other organization is for our young Black men. It was started by Michael Blake from the Obama White House, and it's called Kairos, Kairos, the Democracy Project. And their whole raison d'etre is to get to young Black men on social media using influencers. So that's another great group to get to. And I was very, Kairos, the Democracy Project. And then the last one is Reverend Barber. I heard him a couple of weeks ago talking about the fact that millions of poor people did not vote. That's our 79,000. Think about that. So that's another group that people don't think about supporting, okay? If we can get poor people out to vote and make sure they have the right voter IDs, we have this. So I just want to leave you guys, ladies, with this. We can do this. We can do this. I don't care about, she's Black, she's Southeast Asian. She is the most effective woman right now okay? The most effective person right now to be our president. And that's the message that we need to get out to all of our people. And I love what, I forgot who was saying this. We're literally, each person with our platforms, 1 million people away. It takes 10 hops. You connect with 10 people, you ask them to connect with 10 people, and it takes us, one person, to get to 10 million people. And whether 1 million people, and whether you ask them to donate $1, donate 1 hour a week, whatever it is, it's in your hands. So no more finger pointing, because remember, through your pointing back. So everyone in this room, we can make this happen. So I will leave you with that.
I promise to keep this short. Oh, I'll keep it short, I promise. So, growing up, I just remember my father always saying, the fastest way to get into a fight is to talk about politics and religion. I love politics.
Here we go.
I am a little bit religious. However, the one thing I did hate growing up was when it was time to vote. I went to a church where almost every politician came in and used our platform to get the vote. And it followed me wherever I went. The only time I didn't mind was when President Obama came to my church in Chicago. That's different. But even when I moved here, it followed me to West Angeles. I'm like, it's election. I'm not going to church today because I didn't want to be bothered. And so I belonged to a family prayer line that we started when the pandemic happened. Every Tuesday night, my family from around the country, we get on the phone for an hour. We pray, we sing, we do all of that, but we always said no politics. Well, I'm one of the leaders on that call. Last night, I used the opportunity because, again, there's a lot of myths out there about Kamala. And I have a lot of family in red states. I'm from Missouri, which they don't know what they want to do sometimes. And I said, I'm going to do what I said we should never do here. And I used our family platform prayer line to discuss this issue. And I told them why she is the one for this position, why it is her time. I went all Esther on them. I went Esther 4:14. She's been called for such a time as this. That's how I let it out. All that being said, again, it can be a brunch. It can be anywhere. Don't be afraid to use your voice. And many of you who've seen me here, you know I'm not afraid to use mine. Do not let fear silence you. I'm the head of HR. They just got HR at this company. They don't know what's going to hit them when there's some meetings coming up, and I know how to, just introduce things. And I'm the first Black woman that they've ever had in a leadership position at this company. They should expect what's going to be coming starting next week when we start having our meetings. Everybody's on vacation this week. Am I afraid? No. I'm writing the new employee handbook. So the Crown Act is literally, it's in there now. It wasn't in there before. You hired me to be your director of people and culture. Guess what? I'm bringing it. All that said, again, do not be afraid to have those conversations. I'm not just saying walk up to random strangers and insert, hey, this is what I think. But you have phone calls with people. You know who you're talking to, but here's the takeaway from that. I educated some people on the line who maybe didn't know about what Kamala stands for. They might have that conversation with that next friend, is what she just said. Then they have that conversation with that. It just keeps going. It keeps going. So if you know your truth, you know that truth, speak that truth, don't be afraid. And again, let's get her elected.
Can people hear me?
Yeah, just put it a little close.
Okay. I'm a writer. I just got back from a writing conference, and one of the most compelling speakers was Taya Miles, whose book is about Harriet Tubman. And it's about the human being, not the icon, not the legend, but who she really was. And one of the things that Harriet Tubman, everybody heard that part, right? One of the things that almost nobody knew was that she suffered from blinding headaches and seizures most of her life. And for me to contemplate the fear she must have had to sit on every day to run through the swamps of Maryland, and I just came from there, with dogs and people who wanted her destroyed. And you're doing that with blinding headaches and seizures. And people asked her, how did you do that? And she said, nothing but God. And I don't want to leave this this gathering, one of the things that disturbs me about the Christian right, I don't have a problem with their faith. What's happened is our faith, the faith that has moved us into the positions in which we now proudly negotiate our Americanness, our patriotism, our love for this country and our people. We don't talk about God that much anymore. And a lot of us don't think about that, especially in public spaces. We should not allow, and God for me does not look like what God looked like when I was in second grade. And I asked my Sunday school teacher, well, where did he come from? And she's like, shh. And I'm like, well, that doesn't make any sense. And I know that each of us is a part of that. You know, you ask somebody, do you believe God is everywhere? They'll say yes. And then if you say, so that means you're part of that spirit, you're part of that power. Whatever God looks like for you, if you don't have that, you know, no pun intended, God bless. I don't have a problem with that. But if that is real for you, if that is a power for you, we should own that power, which helped Martin Luther King, which helped, you know, you name the name, for us to become what we've become. And I think own it out loud, just as we own everything else that makes us powerful. If that's part of your power, own it.
Thank you, Donna.
Thank you.
And we are we talked about going till 5. What we'll do is, this conversation is the first of many. If there's one more person who wants, do you want to make? Okay, we'll make a call. And while we're making, let's get the mic over. Julie. Maybe we'll take, we'll make 2 quick comments.
I just want to say, first of all, thank you, but 2 things. One, I think, I'm an educator, and young people are so disillusioned with everything, right? And I think it's important for us to talk about the Gen Z vote and very young voters. And they have a right to be disillusioned, right? They were, right, like they've got piles of student loan debt, or they've got, right, their rights are literally eroding, and they don't trust anybody, like, to be honest. And I think it's important to acknowledge that. I've got a 14-year-old, I think are you 14? 16, close enough. But he's so mad he can't vote right now, right? But I had to explain to him, and I want to explain this to so many young voters. They don't understand what's at stake, right? And I think it is so important for us to tell them. And you're right, the Israel-Palestine is a huge divisive issue among Gen Zs especially, right? Absolutely, right? And I am for healthy babies and safe children 8 days a week all over the world. However, that's a huge issue for them, right? It's huge. But and I think it's a single issue for a lot of Gen Z. So we have to impress upon our young people that it is reproductive freedom, that it is wildfires that will continue to get worse, that they will not have an earth that they can live on, that they will not have jobs, right, that they can go to. I mean, it's so many things that are on the line for them, but they were handed shit. Right? Like this generation. And this generation, I think, in order to show up to vote, we have to, and she is inspiring them. I mean, like the memes that now, right? Like I do think that she has the ability to do this, but I think it's important for us to explain to them how much is on the line, because they haven't necessarily, they just don't know, right? And I think let's not count them out. I actually think they have the ability to mobilize and really show up for her if we make them understand all of those issues, that it's not a single issue, that it's everything, and that she is the only way forward, right? So I just think Gen Z, we haven't really talked about young voters, and I think they're such an important voter block, and we need to spend some time with them. And the second thing is, I live in California 27, which is right now red in Santa Clarita, Valencia, Palmdale, Lancaster. Come up and knock on doors, because it can turn blue, and that's something you can do locally.
Thank you. I think, all right, hello. I'm here in the cut, and I was trying to figure out, I'm like, what can I do? Key was talking about, like, I'm sure everyone can do anything. And when y'all were having the conversation about fear, it really got me thinking. So I have a PhD in clinical psychology, and I've consulted with the government on mental health and on psychology. And that fear is actually a very useful emotion. It's not an emotion that we should ignore or push away. And I educate people and teach courses on fear. And I break it down. It is find evidence
for appropriate responses, right? It's about discovering and understanding what we're afraid of, and we are all logical for being scared of what the freak is happening right now. If we weren't scared right now, there'd be something wrong with us. It's understandable why we're fearful, but we have to use that fear to propel ourselves forward. Like in the work that I've been doing, I found that the opposite of fear is purpose. When you find something that you're on this planet to do, like he was saying, every single person in this room has something that they can do. So when you find that thing that is your purpose, you will start to notice that your fear doesn't go away, but it just becomes less figural. It becomes something that you can still push through and use it to move you forward. So I just wanted to say that. Thank you.
I just want to say, I know we're going to close out, and this conversation is going to continue. But I just want to reiterate to all of you that nothing bad happens when women lead and we have power. And that is for everyone. The new majority, right? I talk about this a lot. The new majority economy is more female and is of color. And that is all of us collectively, right? Moving forward in a direction that our children have something better to live for, to strive for, to have purpose, meaning for, right? When women are leading collectively, and that's all of us, white women, black women, whatever your faith is, Latino women, we actually have to mobilize us around what happens when women lead. It means that you have better outcomes for community, for children, for our health, for our wellness, for your boys. I talk a lot to white women of wealth and venture capitalists, and I know internally they feel like, what does that mean for my own son? What does that mean for my uncle, my grandfather, if there's this new majority or women of color are leading? And I actually tell them it means that they will have a better life. It means that they will be better, right? That they will be safer, that they will be wealthier. That all these good things actually happen as a result of women leading collectively. So we have to think about collectively, how do we come together as women, right? As women of color, as women, how do we unite together and collectively say, okay, what is the issues within your community that as women we need to lead? Women make 80% of all household decisions that have to do with money. We spend 4 times as much in healthcare. We actually rule this country and the economy, but we actually have no power in it. And that's what we want, and that's what we need. Collectively, the world would get better if more women lead. And so we have to think about, how do we come together collectively to actually mobilize? What are the activities and the things that we should be doing down ballot? It's not just about, and someone mentioned this, it's not just about voting one time for that person and then not knowing anything else. Get engaged with people who have essentially ballot initiatives, and they actually know, target, like we said, target those places that we actually need to understand. What are the key issues? What are the judges that are going for office? What are the policies? Who are the local people? Who are the sheriffs? Everything matters at this point. Everything is on the line. Everything.
Hello? Okay. Hi, my name is Summer. I'm a master's student at UCI. I actually attended there for my undergraduate as well. My mentor is Dr. Tiffany Willoughby Herard. I don't know if any of you guys have heard of her. She was actually the professor that was arrested for being involved in the protests for pro-Palestine at my university. So this space is very much appreciated. I just want to thank you guys as well for that. I am 24, so I feel like I, can represent Gen Z pretty well. I just want to say that I think since she has been, nominated for this position, I think that there has been a slight shift with Gen Z in terms of the rhetoric around her and her capability to run this country. I think what is harmful for her in terms of a Gen Z perspective is the narratives that have been kind of swarming about her and her involvement with locking up a lot of Black people. I have seen recently, just on my For You page or Twitter feed, that there's been, in terms of that, just misinformation. And so people are now more right-minded in what she's actually done, and that she's not as harmful as she's been portrayed to be. So I think it's just, my thoughts are just that I would hope every goal that she has or any information that's just been, you know, kind of just spewed out just for hate or because she's a woman of color, I would hope that, you know, that didn't work against her too much, because that's what's been driving even Black women to be unsupportive of her. And I think there's also that idea of, you know, she's Black and a woman and she won't achieve this. But we've seen, you know, with Obama, President Obama, that that is possible. And with the Gen Z vote, I don't think that she would be under that same kind of scrutiny or misfortune of being Black and a woman. And so I just want to thank you guys. Gen Z, I think we'll show out. I would hope so. Even for myself, I have my mother here and my brother and my auntie Latanya, who have kind of been informing me about, you know, past politics that I was just a child for. And so my idea has completely shifted with going from quote unquote genocidal Joe with Kamala. So I'm actually very happy. And as someone who aspires to be an attorney, I actually do look up to her even before this. So yeah, I just want to thank you guys again for this space and hearing all of your thoughts, and being a Gen Z, it's really enlightening and insightful, and thank you guys again.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that, and I love our Gen Zs. I think you all were dealt a really bad deal. I think our 20s were supposed to be fun and carefree, and that was not any sense of form what you had, but I think you are thoughtful, you are willing to just be like, I ain't coming to work in ways that I have never in my life understood. I'm just saying it. I am so impressed. But I say that to say the power of no is something that we grew to say. But at this point, I appreciate the thoughtfulness, the authenticity. We have to talk to each other. We have to get behind and galvanize at this point, because it is your reproductive rights. It is your voting rights. It is the courts. The Supreme Court, we've already seen what can happen across the entire country, the House, the Senate. There is so much at stake in this election, whether you like, I mean, I laugh hella loud and funny, so probably a lot of people aren't gonna like my laugh either. And I don't care, you know, it's like, we're not here to have a beer with someone. We're here to really understand policy, understand what inspires us, get us there, and then ask and demand and remember, how do we stay activated? We have that right. Right now, you can write, and let me tell you, they will write you back. Your local congressman person will write you back like, oh wait, what did I do to something? So understanding that and staying active. I do want to close this out. There's so much that we can continue, but I want to welcome us to spend about 30 minutes. We still have some snacks. Meet people, talk to people, share your, we're gonna send an email out with a lot of the things that were shared today. Please share them with this email and we'll send more out. I thank you for the comment on fear, and I think the idea that when you are walking in your purpose, that is the, like, you really don't care, you really understand. It is sometimes scary to get to that point, but as you get to it, the more emboldened you take. Some of us are quieter. Don't discount the quiet voices, because we be thinking and strategizing and just, you know, and there's many of rooms I've sat in with a lot of louder people, and I just sit back like, okay, I'm studying.
And as, I think one thing that, the plotting, the thinking, the strategizing, and then the activating, the executing, the things that we need to do are still go out, have those one-on-one conversations. This will be one-on-one. If you are a knock on doors person, I'm probably never gonna be knocking on doors, but if you are, if you're a phone call, if you're a text, there's letter writing campaign organizations, there's so many resources. The point is, we can actually do this. I have never seen this quick of a turn of inspiration and movement and energy, and we all feel it. And so let us not take those narratives and let them slow us down. We are part of keeping that momentum going, because we're gonna get on day 7, it's gonna be a little tiring, but we gotta go to day 99 or 105 or wherever we are. Take a break and rest. Take care of us, drink water.
Self-care.
Right. Sundays are normally my day, and I'm gonna just say one thing, and this is super silly. Sunday's my day I don't do anything I don't wanna do. It's my delight day. I'm just gonna chill. If I wanna I'm supposed to see my friend and go and sit in the, Sunday was so busy. And it took that whole day, and I am so grateful that we are in the moment, that we can, and we have the legacy and the people who blazed the trails before us so that we could sit in this very room that's centered on us and belong at this time. So I just want to take a quiet moment of deep gratitude, deep fierceness, and stand in our quiet power. I am a super introvert, and all I do is find careers that make me hold a mic and stand in person. And it's not easy, and there may be many of us who don't. Kat Calvin wrote a book about voting rights, and we should read that because Cookie brought that up, and it's really important. But all the resources that you have, you are the influencers. Whether you influence one person or 101 or 100,001 or 1,000,001, that is the change we are. And so I just want to take a moment of quiet silence for all of those people that aren't with us here in this moment, but are guiding us, and they're with us, and we feel them. So let's just take 60 seconds of silence. Whatever your connection to spirit, God is, those ancestors, the continuum of energy is bolstering us. We have this. We do not give up. The days that we're doubting, call your friend, call your tribe. I appreciate you for showing up, and I feel like in this historic moment, we are all part of history, and that we can continue that. Thank you for coming. Let's talk to each other. Let's gather, grab some food, have some joy, and maybe Sunday we can actually rest.
Thank you, Bridget. Thank you, Bridget Coulter.
turning the mics. Got it going. We did this thing, Eugene.
Wow.